actually sitting in South Dakota right now, because that's our home base. I'm a scientist and I'm also a farmer. And I used to work for the USDA for a number of years. And, as a scientist, I thought I was doing things right. I was attaining all of those metrics of success that scientists say is the right thing to do. I had papers and grants and students and all of that kind of stuff. But I could drive from my house in South Dakota over to where my folks live in the Twin Cities, and things weren't getting better, right? I mean, we've got dust storms are blowing through, the likes of which we haven't seen since the 1930s, right? This is down the street from my house a couple of years ago. And things are, climates are shifting, pollution is rampant, rural communities are declining, and people are sick. And I had to ask myself the question of, okay, if I am a scientist and I'm supposed to be helping, this doesn't seem to be working. And I better rethink how we're doing things. And so I quit and I bought the farm, literally. Um, and I think one of the first things that I decided was that if scientists were going to try to connect with or trying to solve some of these problems that farmers are facing, that we had to connect with the problem. And so all of our scientific staff at Ecdysis Foundation, which is our 501c3, they all help on an operating regenerative farm called Blue Dasher Farm. And that changes everything. That changed the questions that we ask, and that changed how we ask them. And I say that because, regenerative agriculture, soil health, agroecology, all of these kinds of concepts seem like they might help, right? We're all in this mess together. And it seems like there might be some options for really getting us out of this using our food system. But in order to get there, science has to be done in this, and it has to be done right. Um, why is that? Well, there's success stories, right? There's uh, whether you call yourself a regenerative farmer or whatever, or conventional, or however you want to say it, there's people that are trying things that seem to be really working well. And those farms are easily swept aside as that may work on your farm, but it'll never work on my farm. And science can kind of interject here, and we can kind of use science to help to scale what might be working in particular regions, as well as what how to transfer this, how to make it work on a much broader scale. So from our perspective, what needed to be done with science was we had to start thinking about things from a systems perspective. And so science ends up getting siloed, doesn't it? I was hired to be a soybean entomologist in eastern South Dakota. How the heck was I ever going to solve that problem? That was never an insect problem to begin with. That was always a soil problem. And so we try to enter in from the perspective of, we've got to look at soils, we've got to look at water, we got to look at all of the different forms of biodiversity, socioeconomics, nutrition, super important. Number two is, we thought that if we were going to try to use science to help the situation, scientists were never meant to be experts on farming. The farmers are the experts at farming. And that doesn't mean that science can't play a role, as I was saying earlier, but we have to humble ourselves and say, listen, we've got to be listening a lot more than we're talking at this point. We also have to look across ecoregions, and we have to get off of experiment farms and onto actual operations where farmers are developing these successful systems. All of that led to what we're calling the 1,000 Farms Initiative. And what we're really interested in with this is that we're facing, as society, some pretty important challenges right now. And as a food system, we're facing a lot of challenges. How are farmers doing different things in different regions with different food systems in order to weather this storm that we're currently in? Over the last 3 years, we've deployed scientific teams to more than 1,300 farms across North America. So each of those dots is a farm. And you can notice there that Tennessee is a blank. And that's because not because we don't like Tennessee. In fact, we love Tennessee. We're moving in there now. This is if you've ever played the game Risk, this is like the game of Risk on crack. It's trying to maintain relationships with farmers across the country while expanding into new regions and everything with limited resources. So we're on the threshold of working down in through Tennessee into the Gulf states this year, and we're excited to start meeting farmers of that region. Right. So far, we have studied about 35 different cropping systems and 5+ livestock systems across the country, where we have actual like replicated results, where we're able to analyze these different things as experimental units to really start to inform what's possible. Each of those farms spans a continuum, and we're able to assign sort of a score based on their practices from, fully conventional to fully what we are calling regenerative in this case. And based on those scores, we can start to make some predictions based on our data, as far as what we might be seeing in terms of soil carbon accrual, in terms of organic matter or fertility, in terms of biodiversity on your farms and pest problems, what kinds of nutrition we might see in the products that are being produced, as well as grower happiness and health and wellness. So really powerful study, and whether you're profitable. Livestock systems, we have a similar scoring system, but it asks different questions. But all's told, that's it in the nutshell. And then on each of these farms, we're running one of the most comprehensive nutritional assessments of our food system that's ever been done before. Partnering with people like Ecdysis and the Periodic Table of Food Initiative that are really digging deep on nutrition. We're also looking at carbon at different strata, all the way down to 60 centimeters, looking at the chemical physical properties of soils, how well the soil interacts with water. What's the water holding capacity? What's the infiltration rate? What's the hydraulic capacities or conductivities of these soils? But one of the things that really sets this study apart is that we're looking at life. We're going to be identifying entire microbial communities, plants, invertebrates, birds on your farms, and putting real names on these things. We've identified about 14,000 species so far from our food system across the country. And then we dig into the socioeconomics. So what is it that we're, profit loss, that kind of stuff, real crude, anonymized. So don't worry about that. But then we also look at what management you were doing out there and things along those lines. Well, what does it cost? Absolutely nothing. We give you about $7,500 worth of free information about your farm. And then we also, here we go. This is the, oops, shoot. Boy, I'm going crazy here. Well, we give you a 35-page book about your farm, that not only presents what we find on your operation, but also what some of the people in your region are experiencing and some of the practices that might seem to be helping them. And we also, what kind of a time commitment does it cost from you? Boy, we just need a pin drop for the field. We always welcome families and the farmers to come out and visit while the scientific team is out there gathering data, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And then at the end of the season, we have about a 30-minute grower survey that we request. Those are kind of some of the obligations, I guess, of sorts. But otherwise, we end up sending about 9 scientists out to your field, and in order to kind of gather a lot of information. This is your farms. If you decide to enter it in to this, it takes about 2 minutes to register. Um, that will be one of the best studied farms ever. So, so we really are excited about some of the different food systems that Tennessee is experiencing right now.
Wow. I have so many questions. Can I ask a little bit about the geographical footprint of where you're looking for farms? All of Tennessee, a specific region?
We're interested across Tennessee. I think that logistically for us, we'll probably have a couple of subclusters, and we're planning to be in Tennessee for the next 3 to 5 years. So, and generally we're looking for clusters of around 20 to 25 farms per year that we can kind of sink our teeth into. Um, so yeah, this year we might be trying to target Nashville area a little bit, but we'll be getting out your direction probably pretty soon.
Okay, great. And um, so can you talk a little bit about the study area? So if a farmer or rancher is interested, you mentioned like you just need a pin, you just need the address or the location of the plot, but are you looking at just one pasture, just one, or how does that relate to the farm as a whole entity?
Yeah. So our experimental unit is the field or the pasture or rangeland, not the entire farm.
Hmm.
Um, and then there is opportunities if you have more than one field to try to that are being done very differently or something. We can certainly talk about that. One of the It costs us, like I said, 7,500 bucks a field. So as we start to replicate things, you can imagine how expensive this gets, how quickly. But yeah, if there's a really good contrast, then that makes our job a little bit easier too.
Hmm. And how many times does your team just come out once, or do you have
Hmm.
how many times are people coming out to that
Right on.
field?
What a great question. If you're trying something new, like you're going no-till organic this year or something along those lines, we actually would probably want to revisit that field annually for years 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10. And so we can actually help chart the change that you're experiencing on your farm over that time period. If you're more established, if you've been in your system for 3 years or longer, then it'd be just kind of a single snapshot, and we would rely on replication across space with other farms and stuff that are trying similar ideas to what you're doing.
So like whenever I mean, you've obviously been to, you said 1,300 or something farms. Are most of those snapshots, or what percentage of those roughly are you kind of tracking as they change methods or systems?
Right. So we try to go a third, a third, and a third. So we try to get them more on the maybe a third of the farms on the very intensive soil health practices and things along those lines. A third of them on the more conventional side, understanding that they all span that continuum, right? And then a third of those we try to get as transitionals. And
Okay,
so and then we'll revisit those.
gotcha. Are you working with any of the top grant recipients or the top program to identify some of those farms that are in transition or interested in transition?
Um, no, not that I know of, but we're working unknowingly with an awful lot of different organizations right now by visiting their farms. But yeah,
Okay.
but
Um,
very interested. So yes, absolutely. The more collaborations we can get, the happier I
well, I believe there is a funding freeze on that right now, but if it
am.
were to be released, yeah, I don't know if those, yeah, if that happens, then there could be some, or even if there's not, I think that there I'm thinking of Tennessee State University in particular that
Hmm.
had been awarded the top grant. But that is frozen right now. But anyway, happy to make some connections later. That could be a way to find some of those farms.
That'd be
Um,
awesome.
you had mentioned your website says this, and then you alluded to this earlier, but the relationship piece, when you were
Yeah.
talking about is like playing risk, and what is that relationship intensive research is what you have on your website. Like, share more about that and how that translates to the experience of the farmers that participate.
Yeah, we're not a traditional research team. We don't just parachute in, get our data, and parachute back out again. We're kind of in this together. We want to hear what you're facing. We want to see your farms. We want to know what's important to you. And so the people that you end up meeting at your farm, and hopefully the farmers do come out and visit because yeah, it's kind of a neat experience to see the circus kind of hit and everybody start digging around and looking for bugs and soils and everything else on the place. Kids are welcome too. Boy, that's a blast. We put sweep nets in their hands and they start seeing all the critters that they're finding up there and things like that. Um, and then I mean, everybody's got my cell phone, right? Which, is when you've got 1,300 farms associated with the study, that's good and bad. But essentially, when you guys are facing, or you guys and gals and everybody are facing certain issues or whatever, we want to hear about it. And we don't, I mean, we don't know what we're going to find. I don't care what your practices are. We don't know what we're going to find on your farm, but when we leave that place, I hope that you know that we care about you and we care about your farm and we care about your family. And that's a lot different than the type of science that's currently informing global food policies. Um,
Hmm.
there's a connection there, and there's an experience there that I think gets us closer to what the truth is.
Hmm. I love that. And so, kind of following that train there, so after you have your final report in hand and you give that to the farmers, what happens next? I know you mentioned it was a very long report. Are there recommendations in the
Yeah.
report? Okay.
Yeah, there is. And then also, what we're going to be developing this year is inherent in the Thousand Farms is a lot of farmers across the country that are all trying different things, right? There's an inherent social or support network for farmers that want to explore and give the new ideas a shot. And we're going to try to elevate that this year so that there's an ongoing support from the farming community itself, as well as from Ecdysis staff that can kind of, as conditions change or as new ideas come forward, how can we support this moving forward?
Hmm. So, are you saying that would that translate as some sort of online networking ability for the
Yeah,
farmers?
entirely voluntary, and I mean it's anonymous and everything like that. So yeah, yeah. If unless you want to share, and then um, we can give that opportunity. But that interface, because ultimately what we're hoping is that Thousand Farms is going to start to evolve into Project Avalanche, which is a citizen science, where we deploy to groups kits essentially like what we use to places like Tennessee Local Foods initiatives and stuff like that that can help farmers to measure their own farms. And then we can provide an interface where they can upload their data or their samples in order to, and then we can help to contextualize those and process those, relying on the other farmers within the region in order to help that process.
Hmm. Oh wow, that's so cool.
And
Um,
I think it'd be valuable, yeah.
I sorry to interrupt you. I think there's a lag in my internet, but I had one more question. The types of, so just to help me think about, the farmers and our network, and obviously I hope that many of them are interested, but thinking specifically about farm, what are you looking for in terms of what's the percentage of livestock farmers, vegetable, diversified market garden, folks with orchards, and is there a breakdown in what you're hoping to find whenever you come?
What we want is at the end of this project for that map that you saw to be sort of a map of our food system. And so we allow the farmers themselves to sort of dictate what the most valuable systems are in a particular region simply through their own interest levels almost. And so in Tennessee, I could envision, everything from market garden to which is, maybe an acre in size or something, all the way up to rangelands that might be hundreds or thousands of acres in size. We're interested in perennial systems like orchards or vineyards or small, mid-sized kind of uh, or woody types of vegetation. We're interested in annual cropping systems, row cropping systems, and starting to get a picture what the what the lay of the land is there.
Hmm.
And then it may not be that we go to, every single system this year, but that's the point of being invested in the community for a few years, is that we kind of get to dig in.
Hmm. Right. And the systems across Tennessee are so different. I mean, as
Yeah,
you might be aware, West Tennessee is completely flat. And then we're in the rolling hills here. And then East Tennessee is the mountains. So we do see very different types of agriculture across the state.
pretty cool.
It is really cool. It's neat to drive across, and I've done that many, many times, and to see the landscape change. Um,
Be cool.
had a
That'd be a long drive.
It is. Oh yeah, I think it's about from the very, western southern Memphis, from Memphis all the way to the top is I think it's about 7.5, maybe 8 hours. It's
That's longer in South Dakota.
it is. I know it's crazy. Yeah, it's just like the ends kind of stick out at the top and the bottom. So
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a long time to drive across for sure. Um well, is there anything else that I didn't ask, or anything else that you'd like to share? What is the timeline? When do folks need to? I know you said you're going to be here for a few years, so even if people don't register this year, there's time. But for this summer's, um,
Yeah, we're talking. I was just gonna let me pull this up because of my trip schedule. We have a team in Oklahoma right now. Next week or on Friday, they leave for Washington, and we have Tennessee slated for June 7th through the 14th. So there's a little bit of a quick turnaround for this year to get your farms registered up. But I have a feeling you're going to be hearing a lot of stories pretty darn quick about this year, and so we can try to get you on for next year if we don't get you signed up quite yet.
great. Have you gotten some farms signed up already? Are you
Yeah, I believe
good?
so. I'm not positive on the number, but generally, yeah, that's how we sort of start the whole process is looking at the lay of the land as far as who's already registered, because we've had thousands of farms want to be part of the study already. So
So many farms to
yeah, it's
keep in
crazy.
the brain. Um,
Oh, you have no idea. Our databases are like nuts right now. It's crazy,
um,
but it's a good thing.
yeah, and sorry, I just thought of one more question. I'm so obnoxious. I'm gonna cut it off. But the nutrient density, how do you kind of come back when that, like, how do you time if you're doing cropland? You just do
Yeah.
it on the day. It doesn't matter what stage the production is in.
If it's like vegetables, we're trying to get certain types of veggies that we'll just grab when we're there, if it's okay with the farmer, and then we'll freeze dry them and analyze them. If it's row cropping, we actually send them a self-addressed stamped package and ask if they could collect some yield samples for us that we could do some nutritional analysis on. For meat and dairy and things like that, that gets to be a little bit trickier because we need to know a little bit more of the site history that's associated with that meat sample, because a lot of animals come in, feed out for a little while, and then move on. And And all of that legacy ends up influencing the nutrition of the meat or the other products. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah. So for sure, good question.
All right. I swear this is my last and final question. Um, how are you telling the story of the research findings, or are you not there yet? Like, how does this translate into the bigger picture? These farms are contributing into this big picture.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a number of audiences for this project. The peer-reviewed literature is one, and that will inform global food policy. It already is, where we have various discussions at this point with people like, folks on the EFAO and United Nations and things like this. We're also going to be communicating that to the general public, and so blogs, films. You'll see us in various movies coming out. Common Ground was just released on Amazon, and other types of films that are trying to explore the potential of our food system and what change might look like. Um, and then we're also, podcasts, all of those kinds of things. But the farmers themselves get, that, like I said, that document about their own farm, and which is contextualized and summarizes a lot of the other farms in the region.
Okay, I really appreciate that. So it's really beneficial to the farmers themselves because it
Yeah,
informs
yeah, yeah.
their work with their land. It's informing policy and also the general public to
Yeah,
change.
consumers are huge, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
great. Well, thank you for answering my many questions. I really appreciate you sharing about this and grateful to be here and to support your work however we can into the future.
you guys are amazing, and I can't wait to meet some of the Tennessee farmers.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Yep. All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.